Hi everyone, welcome back to Novel Nomad. My name is Kate and today I'm bringing you my very first video in my very first series. This is going to be my History Month of May. I am actually coinciding at the same time as the South Australia's History Festival. I am going to be doing a few videos on history. Different history topics that I like, going into different history books that I want to read, and also, of course, looking at some historical fiction and different genres that use history very well. But today I'm going to be talking about history and me. Now, unlike most people's introduction to history, which is usually in a form of a very monotone teacher trying to teach you things about people who did things so long ago, like why should you care? I actually had two very interesting and exciting sources of my first love of history. The first source was in the form of a game called Where in Time is Carmen Sandiego. Now this is from I think the 80s and probably 90s, but I definitely played it in the 90s. It's a PC game where you follow a famous thief called Carmen Sandiego as she travels through history with, of course, a time travel device that she has stolen, and she starts to rearrange history and steal certain artifacts. And along the way you have to learn, of course it's an educational game, you have to learn and find out, put back the history that she's rewritten and make everything right again. My second exciting source of history were my grandparents. Now these two actually were born in the 20s and they grew up during the 30s and 40s into the war, and they were wonderful storytellers. My papa was from London, in Cockney London, and so he had a gift of the gab and he used to tell amazing stories all the time. And so history wasn't really something that was far away from me. It was something that my grandparents used to tell me every time they would just say a story or just relate some little fun facts for me. Just after my exciting introductions to history, I went into a sort of incubation stage, as we should call it, because I really didn't focus on history too much. It just came to me in passing. I watched documentaries, and lots of you may know the different cartoons such as Horrible Histories. I found enjoyment in those different documentaries and programs. But of course, documentaries and TV shows led to the inevitable watching of Pride and Prejudice. And this just fell into a whole different range of obsession. I started to watch period drama after period drama after period drama, more period dramas, and yeah, I don't know if I have enough. This isn't even scratching the surface of my collection, but I absolutely loved watching period dramas and seeing the real human lives of people and how well it was recreated on screen. Naturally, watching period dramas led me to reading classics. Now, I read Pride and Prejudice, and I also picked up Dickens when I was getting into my later teens and discovering how much I loved reading, and I had an ease and an enjoyment. I never found the language too difficult or too hard, and anything that I didn't understand I would write down and look up, because there was no way I was going to understand every word in this when I was younger, but I still really enjoyed them. So not only I started to read different classics, I started to collect classics. And these are just some examples of some of the beautiful leather-bound books I collected that were printed in the 1800s and early 1900s. I not only read classics, but I read other genres that used a alternate history and actually played with it, most often with fantasy elements. So I read Soulless by Gail Carriger, which is a wonderful Victorian retelling with lots of supernatural and preternatural elements in there, which is quite fun. And two YA novels that I read in my early teens were Blaze of Glory and Leviathan when it came out a little bit later. And these are wonderful retellings of the First World War period, and this one uses magic, where this one uses genetic enhancements and obviously intense machine warfare that led into the First World War. So not only was I reading and consuming all this history-based fiction, TV shows, factual documentaries, things like that, I also travelled. I went to Europe twice. And in that time, I discovered a love of museums. I loved going into museums, into galleries. I liked seeing what people used to use, what their everyday, what things were important to them. So this incubation stage came to an end in my second year of university. I pulled out of my financial courses and I applied to do an international politics, not knowing where to go. But luckily enough, in this international politics course, there was a history component, and I had to study history for the very first time since the elementary history classes in primary school. This very first course was world history, starting from very early explorers going all the way through to the modern period around the 1960s. After that initial taste, I changed immediately over to history, and my preferred history is looking at social history, the history of people, of their lives, of different inventions they created, of ideas of social change, to things that moulded our society as it is today. So this is obviously a focus in more European and English history. And of course, the Renaissance for English history started in the Shakespearean time, which is many known as the Elizabethan time. And then from there you have the Georgian period, which has wonderful works on different monarchs and women who became very prominent within this Enlightenment, and the ideas that propelled a capitalist society as we know it today, and helped the Victorians in the Victorian England come to such power. But of course, it also encompasses the times of great struggle and war, and it just has so many interesting histories, so many interesting developments within this modern period that I absolutely love. I still get the usual comments of history, what can we learn from it? But in my mind, history is incredibly fascinating because we almost don't get the insights into many lives in history. Like we do get the very rare and wonderful biographies that we can use and reference, but at the same time, it's just it's a mystery game, and as historians you get to study and explore a world that is like ours but still different. It's something new. Also, it's something we can learn from. History is a great learning tool, especially social history, because we can see the ideas and the thoughts of those generations who came before us and how they were placed into society, how they were manipulated, how they were expressed, and see how that benefited the society at the time, and how we can then adapt those ideas and see how we can progress forward into our own futures. So that is history to me. History is something from my family, from fun, from excitement, and it's something where I am constantly learning and being a bit of a sleuth and discovering new things. So I hope you can go to your nearest museum, your nearest library, somewhere that is historically significant to you or even historically significant to the society, and you can enjoy the mysteries and education that history offers. But if you are in South Australia, I highly recommend picking up a copy of the South Australia History Festival guide. It has all the different events inside, a little description and where you can book it, as well as heading to their website and checking it out from there. If you aren't in South Australia, just go have fun, find some history to learn about, or go watch period drama. Just go watch a Jane Austen. So thanks for joining me, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time. Bye!